Looks like the Yankees need well-trimmed beards now, so they kind of updated the facial policy. I had this trim here myself. I never actually used this thing. Not because I'm planning on growing a beard anytime soon, but it comes with all these accessories like this and all different sizes, like a mini comb. And it's this thing, so you plug it in and you just go like, you put one of these things on it and you go. Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, the mystery surrounding Stanton's injured elbows even gets a little deeper, as now he has to leave the team in Florida and head back to New York for personal issues. So we'll kind of dive in that and speculate a little bit, even though we don't have the facts, but it's always fun to speculate. And of course, the big news lately that a lot of Yankee fan traditionalists are going nuts over is that now they've updated the facial hair policy, where now you could have well-groomed beards. The big press conference between Hal and Brian Cashman, they had announcing this for like 30 minutes, but people thought it was nuts. But again, a lot of Yankee fans, I guess the traditionalist ones, not too happy with that. I'll kind of give you my take on this. And again, spring training was still early there. Again, some games were on the way, but maybe some things that stand out that maybe you didn't notice there. So a couple of things such as Ben Rice competing for the backup catcher position, and some old Yankees, some former Yankees, joining camp there, maybe you didn't notice there. So kind of point out some of these things that maybe you didn't notice. And last but not least, of course, you heard about the whole thing. That's all she wrote, folks, in terms of New York, New York. The whole Sinatra tune where it would play regardless after a Yankee game, where they're going to switch it up a little bit. So again, we'll examine that as well. I'll kind of give you the back history of how that even started in the first place there. So a lot of good stuff for you this episode. It's still a spring episode. Still got a whole month or so to go. Some spring training games, and before you know, we'll be into the season there. But before we get started, make sure, as you always must do, subscribe to the audio podcast version of the show. So a couple of things I'm going to say here. You might have heard my take sooner than that. So if you don't want to wait so long, make sure you go wherever you get your favorite podcast. Look for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, subscribe, and of course here on YouTube if you're watching, make sure to subscribe to here as well, cover everything. So the show was off for a week, so maybe we didn't discuss it here on YouTube or on television. Did on the audio podcast, is why you should subscribe. And of course the big kind of, dark cloud over the spring training so far has been Giancarlo Stanton's elbows. Apparently has what they call tennis elbows in both of his elbows, and to this date right now has not swung a bat even. Now he's done some light drills and some running around there, but again, this is supposedly an injury that even goes back to he was dealing with last season, which we kind of had this before with the Yankees, especially like Frankie Montas. Like, guys have been hurt a year ago, a whole winter goes by, and they don't address it, and then they show up to spring hurt still. So it's like, can you address that in the offseason and still bother you? If something that was bothering him. And I'm assuming these guys take swings and hacks during the offseason. I mean, I'm sure most of these players, they have mansions. I'm sure they have batting cages in their houses where they can take some swings and, hey, something's not right. Let me go see a doctor. But nevertheless, Stanton shows up here complaining about these. Again, they're calling tennis elbows, which it seems to be a little slight tears, not where you need surgery. It's just more like you just lay off it, and hopefully the tissue heals itself and connects back together there. That's my doctorate degree on the wall, nevertheless. But of course, it gets a little weirder now that it seems like Stanton's actually leaving the team and right now headed back to New York, what they call to see a personal issue. Now, we don't know, is he seeing a second doctor for another opinion? It seems a little bit weird there. Now, Aaron Boone did address the situation. Now, he said he's not going to say anything about it, and so he kind of left it as if Stanton wants to address anything, he can. So this seems maybe a little different, a little bit more than just dealing about an injury. So I don't know what else he would have to address and dealing with personal stuff there. So again, so it seems like it could be this more, I'm not sure the elbows are bothering him. That's why he hasn't really swung a bat up to this point yet right now. But it seems like there's something else floating around with him. So I don't know, it's just kind of bizarre. And again, maybe some news will come out about something. Again, I don't know what they say on a personal issue. So is it family related? I don't know. Something, I don't really know his whole status with that there. So I'm not really sure what that could be there. But again, it's just kind of weird there. And they set the expectations that, very good chance that he will not be in the opening day lineup. Just dealing with the injury or whatever this mystery personal issue is that's been thrown on, which it seems Boone doesn't want to talk about, but he put it out there that if Stanton wants to talk about whatever this thing is, he can talk about it. And again, it could be just getting a second opinion on his elbows, or it could be again a personal issue that has nothing to do with baseball or medical or anything like that. At this point, we don't know right now. Now, again, in terms of the short term, Again, Boone mentioned that one of the things he would like to do is obviously if you give Judge some at bats as a DH, if that's something you can do early in the season, you'd rather do that. Save those bullets for later in the season. Again, Judge, yeah, he's a young guy, but yeah, he's yet another year older. So if you could get him off his feet a little bit to start the season, not really the worst thing in the world. You have something like Trent Grisham or something like you could put in the outfield a little bit and give Judge a couple of days off in April. You know how it is in April. It's cold, it's dank, there's a lot of rain out, and the field may not be the greatest. So, it's not the worst idea to get Judge off his feet a little bit. And then you also have someone like Paul Goldschmidt, 37 years old. Yes, he's slated to be a first baseman, but at the end of the day, he is a 37-year-old. So, again, if you give him some DH spots as well to get him off the feet, that would be good as well. But, of course, the concern has to be with Stanton. Again, dealing with the same issue that he apparently was dealing with last season. Now, if you remember his postseason run where he was amazing, he was the Yankees postseason MVP the whole way there, hitting big home runs, clutch home runs, late in the game, big spots there. So, if he was dealing with that injury at that point and still performing like that, I guess he could still perform there. But it's hard, like, you're going to play a whole season like that. It's got to be, discomfort and maybe likely get worse there. So, we'll just have to see how that works out. And if he's one about Stan himself, 35 years old. Now he's signed through the 2027 season, so you'll see got him for this season, and then plus 2 more. Now the Yankees do have a team option on him for 2028. I cannot see them picking up that option with the money. And again, if he's hurt like this now, what is shape he's going to be in 2027, 2028? Can't even imagine this. So it's kind of a shame. And since this is going to be a situation with Stanton, we'll never see this guy just be fully 100% healthy and what he could do. We know what he could do. He's an MVP caliber player, but unfortunately, whether it's the Achilles, now it's the elbows there, it's always something with him. It's just the way it's going to be there. So we'll just have to wait and see. Again, is this bad, a serious point for the Yankees, code red? No, not of course. Again, I think the Yankees overall, and like the moves they made, I know they lost Soto, but bringing in someone like Bellinger, having someone like Paul Goldschmidt like that, again, the Yankees do have some options. So even if it stands out for a while, it's not the biggest thing in the world. And remember Stan from last season, he missed a chunk of 2024 as well. The Yankees really didn't lose a beat much like that. So even if they got to be without him, for a good start of the season, not the worst thing in the world. And let me also add on Jason Dominguez, someone the Yankees really didn't have last season. You're going to be counting on for this season as well there. So again, not the worst thing in the world if Stan's out for a little bit. I think the Yankees are better equipped, even they were last season, to deal with that. But he's got to hope, this is a situation, we don't know what this personal thing is, but hopefully that's really nothing. If this is all medical, again, if he just stays off his, just doesn't swing a bat for a while, maybe the tissue's healed itself, and maybe he needs a few cortisone shots like that just to get himself there. But it looks like this is something that's going to be bothering him the whole rest of the way. I don't think, maybe trying to get a second opinion on surgery. If that's the case, then he has elbow surgery, then maybe he's done for 2025. That would be a possibility there. But, again, we'll just have to wait and see. So the recent earthquake in Yankee land has been that the Yankee management, ownership, have now sort of loosened up the requirements again regarding the facial land. Because now they will allow well-trimmed beards, as they're saying there. And of course, a lot of Yankee fans feel this is outrageous because the Yankees are pretty much the only team that had a facial hair policy there of no beards at all. Again, they would allow a mustache if it was neat. But again, and even if you have a 5 o'clock shadow, again, Boone would have to tell players a little bit, hey, you got a 5 o'clock shadow going there, buzz that off there. Well, now it's like the Yankees have kind of loosened up their restrictions there and will now allow well-groomed beards. And this is all coming from a press conference, a little mini press conference with Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman. They talked to the press about 25, 30 minutes, and they also put out this big statement as well there, just kind of updating the policy on that there, sort of loosen up thing. And of course, there are a lot of traditional Yankee fans outraged over this whole deal because, obviously the Yankees were the only team that did this, and he's sort of the pride of the Yankees, and so the Yankees, as this well-established, team, everything's neatly buttoned up and all like that and stuff there, and now you're letting all these players getting sloppy and stuff like that, so of course a lot of controversy with that, and maybe newer, younger fans who just, more like, want to like kind of get with the times a little bit, maybe you should stick with these old traditions, so that's kind of the whole hubbub over that. Now the whole backstory, of course, George Steinbrenner, once he purchased the team in 1976 there, he put the policy in place, and that's the way it's been ever since there. And of course, remember back in those 91, actually Manning was benched for a game because his sideburns were too long. He refused to clip him there. Made famous by a Simpsons episode. Remember I forgot the name of the team there. The Burns was the coach, and of course you had Darryl Strawberry, Wade Boggs, Don Manning, that whole deal. So that was the whole backstory, that whole thing there. But nevertheless, not straight too far from that. Again, so is it really a big deal? No, because look at this, that's so that bridge was crossed already. the second they put the Nike logo on the Yankee uniform, that pretty much did everything right there. And after a time, yes, people were outraged, but did you get over it? Yeah. Was it a big deal? No, not really. And of course, a couple of years later, they follow up that with the whole star insurance, which is even more gaudy. Sticking on there on the left sleeve there. At least the Nike one, you really don't even kind of notice it, but like the star one is like boom, you see it there. So you would never see the day of logos on the Yankee uniform, but then they added it. So we kind of crossed that bridge already. So if players gonna have a little bit of scruff going on or just a little bit of beer like that, is it really a big deal? No, in this day and age. And a lot of people are gonna criticize for Hal, and I know Hal takes a lot of flack lately to say, well, he's not his father, and he doesn't spend the most money. And a couple of weeks ago, he had a bad look where he kind of was almost whining and crying how the Dodgers have more money to spend than he does, and how the Mets are spending more than him. So like, hey, hello, you are the owner of the New York Yankees there. I mean, you do have money too there. So not a good look by Hal. Again, a lot of people like to dump on him, say he doesn't care. He just worries about the regular season. He wants to sell tickets and just get the team in the postseason. Doesn't really care if they're a championship or not. All this stuff like that. And there's things you can examine like that too. But I almost I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's a bad thing for Hal. Maybe take a chance. Hey, switch things up a little bit. We're all in a different age there, and it's not the way it is years ago there. The players now, I mean, they rule the roost. I mean, they make tremendous amounts of money. They have much more, influence over a team and everything else than the manager did back in the day. This is not Casey Stengel anymore. And even if you look at Aaron Boone, who got his 2-year extension there, the reason I'm sure he got the 2-year extension is that the clubhouse agrees with them. The captain seems like Judge likes him. Everyone gets along with Boone. You don't see Boone calling players out on the field and screaming at him the way Girardi did. We remember some episodes of Girardi, pulling Cano out of a game, yelling at Gary Sanchez, yelling at Aroldis Chapman. Again, that stuff doesn't work these days the way it did. Now, look, a lot of old baseball fans say, hey, you know what? I wish Aaron Boone had a little bit more fire like that. I wish he would do that. He would call players out, but it just, that just doesn't work these days, and it's just not realistic. Now, behind closed doors, does he talk to players behind closed doors? I would assume so, but you better do it that way versus pulling a play out of game, screaming at a play like that. It doesn't flow this way, and these players are different, and that's just the way it is right now. So if you got to adjust a little bit to fit with the times. By Hal, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. And if the team's playing good, again, if this team is the way it is right now, again, I'm worried about Stanton's elbows a little bit. But again, as long as this team stays healthy and these guys we got, Max Fried and stuff like that, and this team's doing well, you'd probably forget about it in 2 months there. And just because you have the policy where you're allowing facial hair, I don't think people are going to go bonkers. I don't think Judge is also going to grow a big beard and, everyone, Cole's going to get long hair and get all sloppy like the way he was in Houston. I think, for the most part, these players, the way they look, they're going to look like that. Could they let a 5 o'clock shadow go a little bit? Probably at that, but other than that, these players kind of have their look. I mean, Aaron Judge, it's for marketing purposes and everything else. He has his look, so I don't think he's going to just grow a mustache or just grow like a Fu Manchu for no reason. I don't think it's going to happen like that, so I don't think it's a big deal. Now, frankly, I thought a lot of this got ignited with Devin Williams. Again, he's the closer the Yankees traded for. To bring in here, of course, he had a beard, and it was a little hubbub. He really wasn't too happy with having to shave it there, so maybe he got into Brian Cashman's ear there, and then maybe Brian Cashman got into Hal's ear, and they finally decided, hey, let's loosen up the restrictions on the facial hair a little bit. This is what the players are saying there, which is kind of crazy a little bit because Devin Williams, we know for the most part, is probably going to be a 1-year rental. Now, hopefully it's a great year he's here. But, he's going to be a free agent after this season. He's probably going to want a big contract, and don't see the Yankees doing that with him. So you're kind of like changing your policy to make a 1-year player rental happy. But nevertheless, the Yankees are probably looking at some, other players as well. I mean, maybe you're looking at Vlad Guerrero Jr., who's going to be a free agent. Maybe, obviously he has a beard a little bit well. And, maybe if you want to woo him, maybe he'll be a little bit happy that he doesn't have to shave his beard there. And now there are some restrictions there. Again, it can't be too far below the neck there. So again, it's a well-groomed beard, so it's kind of put together nice there. So is it the biggest thing in the world? Is it something you would probably even notice after a while? Probably not. Do I love it that's happening? No, not really. But I don't think it's something that you should get all bent out of shape a bit. And we've been there, done it already. Again, once you started putting logos on the uniform, like those old Yankee tradition, that kind of was the first, nail in the coffin from that thing. So, if you want to loosen this up a little bit, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. And I don't think you can have guys with long beards. I don't think, how we'll let it get crazy. We can have tremendous long beards like Anthony Rendon or, big long locks of hair and haven't been slob like that. So I think Hal will at least keep it within a certain parameter there. So loosening up a little bit, having a little guts to do that, I don't think it's a big deal. So, and again, there's certain things we didn't like. Maybe I didn't like the ghost runner. I didn't like the extra innings rules. I don't like the pitch clock. I don't like all these things. But guess what? After a couple of weeks, you got used to it, and now it's this part, and you don't even bother anymore. And in fact, a lot of fans are happy now with the pitch clock. These games were a bit shorter, so especially early on in the season when you still have kids in school, they get a bit. So I don't love that it happened. I wish it didn't happen, but I don't think it's something to get bent out of shape over it. And I don't think the players are going to go crazy over it. They have their look the way they are. grow a little 5 shadow is not the worst thing in the world there. So I think fans just says relax a little bit. I guess staying in the theme of Yankee tradition, I guess you heard the news regarding the Yankees theme song, which, of course, New York, New York. Now, the Yankees want to update a little bit. Of course, we know infamously, of course, anytime the Yankees win, at Yankee Stadium, of course, they play New York, New York. And also, lately, though, even when they lose, they still play New York, New York, which is kind of weird there, because it's supposed to like the Yankees, like, good song when they win, and you're happy with like stuff. So, like, why are you letting the bad guys get the New York, New York when they win there? So, the Yankees want to update a little bit. So, of course, sticking with New York, New York, the Sinatra tune when they win. But again, now, if they lose, then going to That's Life, another song infamously sung by Sinatra there. So, looks like they're experimenting that right now in Tampa, and then once the season starts, they'll bring that up to New York there. So, I like the idea. I never really liked, playing the Yankee theme song when other players, the opposing team wins there, because you see they get a kick out of it a little bit, because they kind of do it in a mockingly way. And you may infamously remember the 2001 World Series in Arizona. I think after the Yankees lost Game 2 there, Arizona played the New York, New York, kind of, it was for the Diamondbacks win there, but it was kind of mocking the Yankees a little bit there. So you never like to hear the New York, New York when the other team wins there. So I like the idea there. So I guess it'll be That's Life. And then they say they might take with some other tunes as well if the Yankees lose, but I'm sure they'll stay with the Sinatra theme there. Now, a couple of years ago, they deviated from that a little bit in a way. They would play the Sinatra version if they win, and then they would play the Liza Minnelli version if they lost. And really, this goes back to the movie, the 1977 film, New York, New York, with Liza Minnelli. This is kind of where the song came out of. Now, the whole backstory of this whole thing is supposedly George Steinbrenner, the Yankee owner at the time, in 1979, he was at some nightclub. He heard and saw Sinatra perform the song, and he loved it. Afterwards, he went to get the cassette tape, and back then they had cassette tape. I guess he must have listened to it over and over again. Eventually contacted Sinatra's people and asked for permission to use his version of the song at Yankee Stadium. Sinatra, of course, a New York guy, agreed right away. So that's kind of how the story really came out. New York, New York became the Yankees song there after they would win. And, again, I don't kind of remember, I was a little bit young there, but supposedly in the 80s and the early 90s, the Yankees also experimented with a Sinatra/Tony Bennett duet of New York, New York. They played that a little bit. Again, it's a little before my time, so I don't remember that. So there's little touches to this, but again, the only big difference is now that when they lose, it's going to be a totally different Sinatra song. And I guess closing out like the history and tradition portion of the episode, I got to recognize the passing of Lou Cucuzza Sr. He was the longtime Yankees visiting clubhouse attendant. He was employed by the Yankees for 35 years. Unfortunately, passing away at the age of 86. Now, it's still staying within the family there. He has both his sons, Rob, and then, of course, Lou Jr. They handle both the home and away clubhouses, respectively. But unfortunately, again, Lou Sr. Passing away at the age of 86. And, of course, now that we're going to jump on the field, we, of course, have to talk about injuries, and the Yankees have had a number of them already. Of course, we can talk about the big one with Stanton and his elbows, but, of course, pitching-wise, we have Scott Efros right away, and kind of disappointing there. It was like literally through one pitch, and he pulled his hamstring there, so we don't know timetable how long he's going to be out, how serious it is, but, again, he's been a major disappointment. Again, the Yankees traded for him in 2022. A bit of a sidewinder there from the Cubs. Again, it would be a great weapon against right-handed hitters. He's just always hurt there. Unfortunately, was with the Yankees a little bit in 2022. Had to be shut down. Needed Tommy John surgery, and had a real bizarre, trek path after that there. Of course, we know into 2023. Then all of a sudden he had like this mystery back surgery in the 2023 off season, which then delayed his debut of the 2024 season. And then once he did get up here in 2024, very briefly, again, his velocity wasn't where they thought he should be. And again, his stuff wasn't there where he thought he should be. So they didn't even bother with him. Again, he was a weapon. You thought you might have had it for the postseason of the Yankees, so he was totally out of the equation. Then you figured out at least wants to start fresh new this season. But again, one pitch, already with hamstring injury. So, this guy's kind of, you might have to put him in there with like the Lou Trevino, the Frankie Montoses, where this is not going to work out for this guy. So, again, hopefully it's a minor tweak there. It would be a shame there because, again, if he's on, he's got his stuff going. Again, he is devastating against right-handed batters. That's just the way he throws with his side-on motion. But, again, he just has to stay out of, stop getting injured. And a little growing pain problem for the Yankees, which I kind of predicted a little bit, has been so Jason Dominguez, one of the games he had there, butchered a couple balls there out in left field. Now, that was the February 23rd game against Detroit, the afternoon game there, where there was one routine pop-up where it looks like he was having problems with the sun there. It was adjusting the glasses, the ball just dropped right in front of him. And there was also another play with a line drive, which was probably a catchable ball there. He let Dunk in there, cost the Yankees a couple of runs there. So you see a little problem, growing pains with him in left field. And, hate to say so, but I kind of predicted this a couple of weeks ago that I did not love the idea of him being in left field. He's a natural center fielder. Again, is it asking a ton to move over in normal cases? No, but you're looking at different angles like that, and for some reason, I think this is a bad idea. We saw even last season in left field, he was having some issues there where it was so bad where what he could give you with the bat there, but Aaron Boone didn't even dare even try to start him out left field. Just gave pretty much all the starts in the postseason to Verdugo, which is kind of weird. There's like, why didn't you have Dominguez up here in the first place? But nevertheless, Boone didn't want to go, didn't want to test Dominguez out in left field. That's kind of, they're worried about his defense there. So again, hopefully he gets over it. He's going to get some reps out there. He's only 22 years old. He turned 22 recently there, but this could be a little bit of a problem there because you don't want to hold your breath every time you get a pop-up or, something to left field there, and you got to worry about he's going to drop the ball and that. So, ultimately, the best thing might be, again, if you just put him in center field and Bellinger, who's more of a veteran, I think he could adjust better. And he even told Aaron Boone he'd be willing to play anywhere, put him in left field there. I just think that, and that might just end up being the case there. So we'll see what happens. I think, again, if he has a real bad problem out there, you don't want to lose his bat because we know we can do offensively, but then you don't want a situation where he's struggling out in left field and then brings those struggles to the plate there, which is probably something might have happened with Gleyber Torres a couple of years ago when they switched him from second to shortstop a little bit there. So you don't want that to get into his head there. So we'll see what happens. But maybe some of the silver lining of Stanton be out for a while, then you can move things around a little bit. You can have Judge as your DH, and then potentially you can put Dominguez in center field as a natural position, and then have Bellinger move to right field until things get normal there. So the Yankees do have some options there, but it looks like they do want to work him out of left field there. But again, if he keeps butchering balls out there, you're gonna have to find another solution. Again, the best thing might just be let him just be a natural center fielder. Now, something we probably weren't expecting this spring has been Ben Rice, not playing first base, but now competing for a backup catcher position there, which kind of took us off guard, and Boone was going to him a little bit early there, and it all kind of makes sense. Of course, if the Yankees would have maybe given Ben Rice the shot at first base the whole way, I would have been okay at least to start the season that way. But of course, once you get opportunity to get Paul Goldschmidt, hey, look, I love that idea even better, and give Rice an opportunity to develop a little more with his hitting there. Because he came onto the scene last season, looked good early on because he had the 3 home run game against Boston, and he even got to the point where Boone put him as the leadoff hitter there. But unfortunately, maybe the scouts or whatever, they got to him, and again, his batting average went way down there, and it seemed like maybe he lost some confidence like that, and eventually had to be bounced out. But again, the Yankees give him a fresh start this season, but he'll now be able to compete for the backup catcher position. I like that. And of course, if you have him on the team, has the versatility of playing first base, which I don't get. He'll get a ton of time because you mainly have Paul Goldschmidt there, and of course, DJ LeMahieu is also lurking around, even though DJ is competing for a third base spot there. But first base is also a spot that Boone has put DJ a lot there, so there's probably not too many at bats and opportunities for Ben at first base, unless there's definitely going to be a right-handed pitcher there. But nevertheless, now if you could compete for a backup catcher position, I think he might be a better option there. Of course, Austin Wells definitely probably, at least at this point, a better hitter, has more power than, at least, more of a consistent hitter than Ben Rice there. But again, Ben Rice is your backup catcher. Also good to have him on the bench because he has the versatility of first base and catcher. Now, Ben Rice himself said he added 10 pounds of weight compared to what he weighed when he came up with the Yankees last June. And it kind of all makes sense because those catchers take a beat, and you hear a lot of catchers do that. They like to put on more weight during the offseason because once the season hits, so the catching dude is very brutal there, especially in like August and the hot months there. So it all makes sense. So we'll see how that all works out for Ben Rice. But yeah, again, he's the homegrown guy, so you like to root for him, like to see somehow, some way to find his way onto this 25-man roster. And of course, Yankee tradition, in camp, they always kind of bring back what they call the old timers there. Well, there's kind of some new old timers you might have recognized, and that's mainly Roger Clemens and Alex Rodriguez. And, kind of ironically, we just had the Hall of Fame announcements, and again, the two of them probably not anytime soon get voted for the Hall of Fame, but again, at Yankee camp there. And actually, I like the idea. And if you kind of look at their, A-Rod, teammates, he always say when he was a player, like he was always kind of a coach. He loved the game. The young players, he always gravitate to him. I remember, like Melky Cabrera always trying to pick his ear there. So, anything you can pass on to the Yankee players like that and these new guys like that, I think it's a great idea. And again, have him in a little bit. I know maybe, A-Rod, you only had the one championship in 2009 there, but even if you look at someone like Roger Clemens, you just take a step back and look at it. I mean, he delivered 2 World Series for the Yankees, and he pitched in another 2 World Series. That was the 01 and 03. Okay, the Yankees lost those 2, but again, pitched in 4 World Series for the Yankees there. So if you look at him there, you kind of look at him as more of a Red Sox, probably, a little bit like that there. But again, the time you have with the Yankees, did do a lot of stuff. He also had a Cy Young award as well there, and of course 2 championships. So, and again, whatever he could pass along, that'd be great. And of course, working with someone like Garrett Cole, who he could totally relate to. I mean, they're kind of the same type of power pitches, stuff like that. And Cole kind of mentioned he wanted to pick his brain a little bit, how he could pitch into his early 40s, like Clemens did there. And of course, a lot of ha-ha jokes talking about using PEDs. That's how you can pitch in your 40s. But nevertheless, I think it's just good to have those guys around. And of course, you've seen CC as well, and it's getting some familiar faces like Andy Pettit, Ron Guidry. So, and it's, again, that makes the Yankee organization different from others. Again, just have those guys like that around there to teach the new guys. Again, you got like a Max Fried in here, a lefty, doing this for the first time. And again, who better to talk to? Andy Pettit and CC Sabathia. So, I love the idea, and hopefully Yankees keep going, doing it in spring trainings of the future. And it looks like the Marcus Stroman fire has been put out for now. Of course, the whole thing with that is that he was refusing to take a bullpen job, and it was kind of a little bit kind of a weird thing. So it's sort of like, like you don't really get to say where you pitch there. I mean, he said, yes, I'm a starting pitcher, and I'm only going to be a starting pitcher. But I was like, yeah, but the Yankees kind of have 5 starting pitchers already there. So if you're not one of the best 5, someone's going to have to get kicked to the bullpen. So right now, things have been quieted down. Of course, Boone and Cashman said the right thing. So it's like, well, yes, that's why we bought him here. We think of him as a starting pitcher there. But at the end of the day, you have Garrett Cole, you have Rendon, you have Fried, you have Luis Heel, who just won the American League Rookie of the Year, and you have Clark Schmidt. Now, Clark Schmidt, of course, had a little bit more of an impressive 2024 than Marcus Stroman did, but of course, Schmidt right now dealing with a bit of a bulky back. He has started throwing a little bit there, but again, that situation could solve itself. But at some point there, either Schmidt or Stroman is probably going to have to go to that bullpen, so we'll just have to wait and see. But it seems like he's refusing to take a bullpen job, so I'm not even sure how that's possible. I mean, you're getting a contract, you get paid money, you got to do what the manager says there. So we'll see how that goes. And again, usually those cases, these things work out, which hopefully is not the case. Someone like Luis Heel could get a muscle strain. He'll be out for a while. As we mentioned before, Clark Schmidt's down a little bit. So right now, this doesn't look to be a big deal. Stroman ready to throw a little bit in spring already there. But, this has been put on a little bit, but a lid on it a little bit. But again, this was always the problem with Stroman when you thought about bringing him in there. You always seem to rubbing some people the wrong way. He was okay in 2024 there, but getting off to a bad start in 2025, this kind of making these demands there. So again, he's always had that thing about him. He had a little bit of an attitude problem. See him go back and forth with fans on X there. Had the whole spat with Brian Cashman a couple years ago. So there again, there's a little stuff like that. He was well tempered. He handled himself pretty well in 2024. I know performance-wise didn't have the best second half of the season, which was always again, we always knew that was the whole quib about him there, so no one's surprised there. But, to kind of make demands and say you're not going to accept a job there, so I don't even see how that works. So we'll see how it goes, but right now it looks like the Stroman fire has been at least put out for now. And whether you love Joe Buck or you hate Joe Buck, well, Joe Buck will be back in baseball, announced that he will be calling baseball games again. Of course, longtime baseball announcer, football announcer, lately, of course, doing his, teaming up with Troy Aikman there. He was on hiatus for baseball for a while a little bit, but now coming back into the baseball. Announced that he will be doing games, and if you love Joe Buck, you're going to get him right away. Looks like he's going to be calling the first game of the year between the Yankees and the Milwaukee Brewers there. So, you're going to get Joe Buck right away if you don't like him. I personally think he's okay. I don't hate him. And look, I know some of these national guys, is it going to be as good as detailed as Michael Kay or John Sterling was on the radio there? No, they're not around the team a lot, but if you want to think back at some Yankee nostalgia, look back in the late 90s, some of those championship games there with the Yankees, some of those calls, you're thinking about, Jim Leyrit's 3-run home run against Mark Wahlers there and the call Joe Buck on that. So Joe Buck has been part of some Yankee tradition, some good Yankee memories there. So I have no problem being back. I know a lot of fans complain like, oh, let's say if you're a Yankee fan, well, he's not rooting for the Yankees, he's rooting for the Red Sox. And if you're a Red Sox fan, well, he's not rooting for the Red Sox, he's rooting for the other team there. We all know the deal with Joe Buck. His father, Jack Buck, longtime announcer for the St. Louis Cardinals, so he's a Cardinals guy. So yeah, if the Yankees and Cardinals, is he probably pulling for the Cardinals? Yeah, but is it really a big deal? No. So Joe Buck will be back. I like his voice again. I like when he does football games. I didn't mind him doing the baseball games. I know a lot of people don't like him. Is he going to be as bad as Bob Costas from the previous postseason there? Probably not. Where like a lot of fans wanted to put him like in a straitjacket and get rid of him a little bit there. So Joe Buck was never that bad. He's just not going to know every little detail of the team because he's just not covering it every day. So that's the episode. Hope you enjoyed it. So we'll just have to wait and see what the situation is with Stan's elbows and the so-called personal issue he's dealing with. Hopefully it's nothing too crazy. And before you know it, maybe at some point he'll be back with the team there. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast, the audio version, here on YouTube, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah.